Are duplexes still a good investment in 2025? In this video, we're going to go over a little bit of what that looks like in the Florida and the Georgia market if you're trying to buy a duplex. Does this still qualify as a good investment opportunity in 2025? Stick around and find out as we go deep into this video. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Gene Garant. My name is Gene Garant. I am an investor in Florida where I do hard money loans, fix and flip properties, and also do new construction. So it gives me a lot of experience what I'm seeing in the market. Now, are duplex still the golden meal ticket that everyone is talking about on social media? Buy a duplex, buy a duplex, buy a duplex, buy a duplex. Is that even adequate right now for in this market for it to make sense? I'm only going to speak to Florida and Georgia markets because this is what I'm seeing, and we're going to go dive into that. Now, in the Florida market right now, buying a duplex, does it make sense for you to cash flow? Are you going to cash flow? A lot of you think that you might, but you'd be surprised. Currently right now, the real estate trends in Florida and Georgia are quite different. In Florida, things are high for duplexes. Everyone and their mom wants to buy a duplex, where in Georgia, you can get away with certain areas depending on what the rents are. You may have more favorable options in Georgia. In Florida, you may have favorable options too, but that might be in areas and pockets like Ocala, Titusville, and it might need to be a brand new built duplex and not an existing duplex. I'll speak to that in a little bit because new duplexes, you can build them for cheaper than buying a new duplex. You heard that. You can probably build a duplex cheaper than you can buy it. That's because the prices of duplexes in Florida have skyrocketed and people are just buying them and trying to grab them up, particularly new investors. They're not really looking at the full picture. What is that full picture? Some investors, they want to live on one side and collect money on the other side. What does that mean, right? They just want to offset their living expenses. Now, is that a true duplex where you can cash flow and cover the mortgage payment if you opt out from living in that duplex? Maybe not, because if you have negative cash flow in a project, in a house, you're not necessarily making money. Now, you may have upside on the particular increase of growth, but no one's going to buy a duplex if they're not going to make cash flow. So you may want to sell it for more, but if the rents don't follow suit, you may have a problem. And right now, rents are somewhat coming down in the Florida market right now as of 2025 and the Q2. So if you're paying too much for your duplex and rents are coming down, you could potentially be losing money or missing out some cash flow that you previously were getting. Keep that in mind. Now, the expenses for a duplex is one and the same. You're paying taxes on one property. You're going to have 2 meters, right? You're going to have the same lawn expenses because some duplexes are on average about 1,000 square feet or 900 square feet on each side. But now you'll find duplexes that are about 1,200 square feet on each side, which is a 3-2, and not the traditional, which you used to find a lot was a 2-2. Now, we know a 3-2 has more in rent. So if you're getting a 3-2, that may be more favorable on your side because that person could live in that place with their whole entire family, whereas a 2-2 is a little bit limited. So you got to keep that in mind if you're buying a duplex. Now, I will say that the median price of homes have gone up in Florida. Also, Georgia, it has gone up, but Florida has had a significant increase in the median home price. Where Georgia and some outskirts of Georgia, out from the metro Atlanta area, you can still get some good deals. Now, in Florida, you can do the same thing if you're going to Orlando, but Miami duplex are more expensive. You go to Tallahassee, you might get cheaper. You go to maybe West Palm Beach, expensive. So anything in South Florida can be expensive. Central Florida is just as expensive, and I'm seeing the market here myself. What I'm seeing right now is people who have just purchased duplexes, not talking about past owners. I'm talking about new duplex owners. They're just barely covered it in Florida, where I see people who bought duplexes in Georgia, they have some type of appreciation and cash flow because the price they purchased was cheaper. If you're buying duplexes at an expensive price already and the rents don't follow suit, your expenses are going to be the same. Now, you may have some gradual expenses on taxes and stuff like that, but your expenses are gradually going to increase by 2 to 3%. I would say 2%. So if the rents are not going through with that, you can have a problem on your hand pretty soon. Now, if this is for you, you're saying, hey, I just want to live on one side, offset my rent, completely fine with you, right? Because you don't have to worry so much about having to have somebody live in both spots. You can just do your thing and still be able to profit and gain, because now you just subsidize your living expenses. If you're trying to subsidize your living expenses, you can still work. But if you're trying to build a portfolio, I see some issues in Florida. Georgia, you still have some chances, right? Georgia, you can go and still make a profit. In a particular scenario, I have someone that I know right now that they're selling their duplex because they can't afford to sustain it, because the cash flow they thought they were going to make, they can't now make it in this market. They were making a little bit, but because the duplex wasn't fully updated, deferred maintenance kind of caught up to them, and they're still in the hole from last year going into this year, and we're almost halfway into this year. So they're like, this is too much for me. I don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather sell it. Now, this may happen to you too, but you want to make sure that you're buying properties, particularly duplexes, that if you have deferred maintenance, you're getting a good price so you can update that property over time. If you're buying it new, you're in luck. You have a 5-10 year window where you don't have to worry about too much at all. So keep that in mind. So let's talk about the pros and cons. So there's a lot of pros and cons to this, depending on how you approach it. If you're doing where you're living on one side and the other side you're renting, you have tax benefits, you have long-term appreciation. Now, the long-term appreciation will have to make sense for someone who wants to buy the property. But nonetheless, if you're living there, you're saving on rent, on either in Florida or Georgia, you're going to do well. Tax benefits also helps you as well. Now, depending on how your state is, you might want to take a look into that, see how it can truly benefit you, and talk to a CPA. So you can do a lot of things here when you're looking at some of these duplexes to see if it makes sense for you. Now, some of the cons I will tell you is, in that appreciation is, can the appreciation keep up with the rents? Because if the rents don't really match the appreciation, it's gonna be hard for you to get that amount of value out of the property without the rents matching it. Because if an investor comes and picks it up from you, they have to be able to cover the rent without them living in the property themselves for it to make sense. They won't think of it as, oh, I'm buying a property, I'm gonna live on one side. They need to have the flexibility in case they want to move out eventually and buy a property for themselves and truly have an asset that's really producing cash flow. So you want to make sure you're doing your cash flow analysis correctly, although you can't necessarily 100% time the market. However, you want to make sure that it makes sense for you long term. Now, does a duplex make sense in 2025? Depending on where you're at. It doesn't make sense as it was before. A lot of people are in this duplex mentality and it may not make sense. Now, if you're buying, yes, it may make sense in some areas. If you're building, it may make more sense in some areas, but you need to look at everything when you're doing these duplexes. It's not like it was before 5-10 years ago where everyone's telling you buy a duplex, buy a duplex. I know that's what's on social media, but you got to really do your due diligence in this particular market in 2025. To me, my personal opinion, I think the duplex theory may be dead unless you're doing it to live, to supplement and subsidize your living expenses. That's just my opinion in the current moment. But drop down a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on this, because this is what I'm seeing in my market. This may be different in different markets, but this is what I'm seeing in my market. Hopefully you found some value in this video. If you like it, go ahead and give me a like, subscribe to the channel. Let's see if we can make some things happen on our end. If you want to build something, if you have land, you have a duplex, you want funding for it, just let me know. Thank you for watching the video.
Turning dreams into deeds is the firm's creed. Flip a house, fix it up, every step we lead. Construction on point, profits we exceed. Full circle's the name, in this game we succeed.